Hi, I'm Jacqueline Rinksmeyer, Executive Director of the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us today to watch our annual Candidates Forum. We do this event in partnership with Medina TV, and I'm here today with General Manager Jared Fry.
Thank you, Jacqueline. You will notice today, as Jacqueline and I do not have our mask on, and as I interview these candidates, I will not be wearing a mask, nor will the candidates. We are following all the Department of Health guidelines in regards to spatial distancing, and with being on air and doing a broadcast, masks are not required.
All candidates in local contested races were invited to participate in these interviews. This forum is designed to inform the voting public of their choices in the upcoming election.
The views and opinions stated by the candidates during the course of these interviews are not necessarily those of Medina TV and the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for exercising your right to vote in the upcoming election. Enjoy the Candidates Forum.
Joining us in studio now is Steve Hambley, the candidate for Medina County Commissioner. So Steve, thank you for joining us here today.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Yes, and for some of the residents or voters that may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, right now I'm a state representative, have been for 6 years. Prior to that, I was a county commissioner for 18. Essentially, I've been a lifelong resident of Medina County. Grew up in Medina County. I always joke that my parents smuggled me in when I was 2 months old from Cuyahoga County and built a house over in Brunswick Hills Township, Brunswick Township at the time. And we didn't need visas or passports or anything to come in from Cuyahoga County, so we were there. And of course, grew up in Brunswick. I graduated in 1972. Lifelong resident of Medina County. This is the area that I love, and I've dedicated myself to public service over a great number of years. Also enjoyed the opportunity to be not only a councilman for 5 years, but also a college professor. I was able to work my way through college and full-time and go part-time. Took me 25 years to go from my high school degree to get my PhD, but I taught a number of years at Lorain County Community College and some other colleges, history, political science, urban studies, and so I've tried to apply academics, if you will, to obviously in the field and public service. So I've had great opportunities in public service over the last number of years, thanks to the voters. I've enjoyed that and learned quite a bit as a state representative about how state government works and so forth, and hope to return, when I return as a county commissioner, hopefully I'll be able to, with the will of the voters, be able to take the benefit from learning all those experiences and everything, how things work at the state level, and apply those at help the county and represent the county.
And in terms of the county, kind of explain the role of a county commissioner.
The county commissioner actually is a steward for county resources. They own the property, or they, for title, the property goes to the people, but they basically have possession and the responsibility for maintenance and providing for facilities for many county government functions. That includes law enforcement, like the jail, but also courts. Likewise, every county office, you have a number of other elected officials, recorder, treasurer, auditor, county engineer, and so forth. The county commissioners oversee that. Likewise, they're the taxing authority of the county. They're the ones that have the responsibility to put issues to the ballot or impose taxes, whether they be property taxes, for specific functions. And it has always been said that in Medina County, people take great interest not only in government, but also the taxes they pay. And the county commissioners are responsible for not only collecting and applying those taxes, but also managing those and make sure that they go a long way. And Medina County has a long history of being very frugal, efficient, and effective with the use of its taxes. And that is a responsibility of the county commissioners, because they oversee the budgets of all those departments. They provide for the funding of the county prosecutor and judges and a great number of the departments. And then there's the other functions of county government that have been sanctioned, basically have been provided for by the state. In many ways, the county has been known as the front office of state functions. In other words, when a state says, well, we're going to do this kind of service, rather than creating a new department, historically they would have the county commissioners implement that. And in areas such as welfare, social benefits, you've got health department, or mental health issues, all those kind of things have the oversight and I'll just say the involvement of the county commissioners. So they have a very diverse over the number of centuries, if you will, a couple centuries, over 200 years, where the county commissioners, their role in in how government operates has evolved. They likewise, in a lot of functions, also serve hand in glove with townships. They have a joint responsibility with township trustees and a special relationship with townships, because historically the townships would be formed and the county commissioners have responsibility for the roads of the township as well as the authority in many functions of government within the townships. So they work with township trustees as well.
Mm-hmm. So you just discussed all those roles and responsibilities. What do you think heading into this term would be the biggest issue that county commissioners face right now?
Well, right now, I would say one of the biggest issues facing the county commissioners is what's facing Medina County, the businesses and the people, and dealing with the I'll just say the impact of COVID-19, the pandemic. It has obviously the health function, health impact on people's lives, but likewise our lifestyle, our way of life, and so forth. We started looking at the impact on the economy. So I think the largest issue the county commissioners will have to face next year are the budgetary consequences of this downturn. We were talking about a survey that was just recently completed, yet to, I guess, validate how accurate it is, but they ended up doing a survey of the businesses that had closed during this COVID shutdown, and 60% of those businesses that had been closed down from that shutdown on COVID-19 are not going to be coming back. They're permanent closures. And those are largely the smallest, the mom and pops and so forth. So government has had a role in those closures, and also a responsibility to step up and help restore some of those functions. The market has adjusted significantly. There has been a lot of growth in the area in terms of economic development in Medina County. Just attended, or at least on Zoom, a Medina County Economic Development Corporation meeting this morning, and Bethany Dentler talking about the great investments that are continuing on and the adjustments being made in the marketplace by a number of our business partners. The county will still have to be a partner in working with those resources and working with those businesses, but likewise making sure that small business is not forgotten, and continue to work with them as people and entrepreneurs still have a great interest in meeting the needs of the public. And so we have the physical aspects of COVID-19 we're still dealing with, and will for the next year and on to next year. So the county commissioners, first and foremost, will have budgetary and fiduciary responsibilities. Likewise, an interest in how the state's going to deal with the overall downturn in the economy. And then lastly, how we're going to be able to implement whatever plans are in place for the expansion of facilities, such as the new courthouse that's being proposed and has been discussed over the last 2 years.
Now, in terms of, you talk about that big issue, but if elected as county commissioner, what are some issues you would like, maybe 3 issues that you would like to see accomplished during your term?
Well, one of them early on when I decided last year to run for county commissioner, and if you will, get out early. It's been 6 years, and rather go the full 8, I decided I wanted to come back. I say I was getting out early for good behavior and come back. But one of the issues I wanted to talk about is being able to take advantage of and work with the state level with many resources and programs. One of them is what's called a performance audit. The state auditor has a large fund. Right now they have about $1.2 million available for grants to local governments, and they share those grants for performing doing what's called performance audits. That's where they come in as an independent entity, come in and evaluate a program or a business function of a government, and they evaluate its efficiency, effectiveness, and the cost, as well as some other issues such as equity and those kind of things that could be addressed of various functions, and do a comparative analysis. So these are outside eyes taking a look at a department and deciding, well, we could do things better here. One of the earliest candidates I was hearing from last year, and I think there's been some modest changes, certainly, could still be examined, was the building department. Issues with the county building department. Now, I understand they have a new director now, and so I think a lot of the issues that I was hearing about last year and early part of this year are starting to be resolved, but it doesn't mean that they can't go in there and kind of compare how our county building department is doing compared to other building departments, what they could do to be much more efficient and effective in meeting the needs of the individual residents or even businesses and commercial activity in terms of that aspect. So those are the kind of things that I think we could take a look at. And as I said, the funding is there, half the cost of that. And these performance audits have been around for the last several decades, if you will, at the state level. But under Keith Faber, who's the new auditor, he was able to have the state put aside money in order to help increase the number of local performance audits being formed. And it's not meant to be a club, it's meant to be a tool that can be used by those that have oversight and involvement to improve the efficiency, effectiveness, and reduce the costs of public and functions that are being conducted. So that's one area. We can work with the other commissioners to examine that I think we really need to focus on efficiency and effectiveness, as well as the overall costs of very important functions of county government. The second one is obviously addressing, I think we will have to continue to address the physical needs of our various departments. Certainly, even if this year the commissioners decide that they want to proceed with the building project, of course, depending on what's going on with the city of Medina, if it involves the city of Medina, they intend to proceed. And so there'll be those physical aspects of the construction, what's going forward. And there's always, having been around for 18 years as commissioner and gone through a number of building projects, there are always changes. There are always the need for oversight, and I think dealing with the construction manager and those design professionals that are involved, working with them, making sure that we really are getting the best bang for the buck, that we are meeting the needs, and indeed, as the space opens up in the, if you will, the new courthouse, the 1969 courthouse, that space can be better utilized for other county functions, and maybe we can reduce costs and maybe even not have as many buildings needed to make sure that we are providing those functions in that space and best keeping the square look like all of us, we all love that historic looking square, and be able to maintain that and that activity and vibrant activity that is needed for the local businesses. The third is the infrastructure. Continue to focus on roads and development. I was just in a conversation with ODOT District Director, Third District, Bob Weaver, Director, about the future projects actually this morning, about what's going on over on Route 18 from Nettleton all the way into town. And also the improvements on River Styx. And there's a lot of those infrastructure projects that we also need to be looking at. And now that the state, as you know, as a state representative, I did vote for a gas tax increase. They have more revenues. It went down. Thank God they had those additional revenues, because when basically the revenue was coming down, people were traveling less. They were able to maintain. But over the long term, they still have the revenue source needed to complete projects. And I think we have to be very aggressive in Medina County to make sure that we are getting the state funding for our various road projects. So those are the three things I think that I want to see us focus on over the next couple of years.
Sure, and I'll circle back to the one you just mentioned kind of second in there, and that's the Courthouse Project. Again, like you stated, it's going to the voters here for the city side aspect of it here in November. Kind of what is your opinion entering, and if elected as county commissioner, what approach would you like to see with that courthouse?
Well, first of all, I also have to say I have great respect for the current Board of Commissioners, as well as all the elected officials that have been involved in the decision making. I've tried to assist them as a state representative, help aid them, certainly over the last number of years, help the county make sure that it was receiving additional funding. We're able to get a huge bump up in the Defense, Public Defender's Office, funding that the county never had before. So that gives them the ability to have the money and resources needed to address these problems. My opinion has been that I've been following it, and I'm glad that they've continued to seek and pursue public involvement, understanding of it. It has evolved, I think, to be a project that I certainly can support. The idea they could keep it on the square, but also be able to retain that 1969, the new courthouse, if you will, the look of the square, maintain that, but be able to accomplish the real needed changes that were around a decade ago when I was a commissioner, when we looked at it, and that hasn't changed. The desire for making sure that we've got the accommodations for future judges, but likewise making sure that the current ones and the current functions of the courthouse meet the safety standards and the standards necessary for the operation of our justice system. So I'm supportive of what they've been doing. Certainly Medina City is going to make a decision as to whether they want to be a partner of that. I've tried not to interfere. I've kept up to date with those prospects, and I have a great, like I said, trust and admiration of our current public officials who've been involved in the decision making. And should I be fortunate as commissioner, I'll certainly be stepping in and making my wishes known and be involved in the further decisions. But I think the idea that this vote on for the courthouse in the square everywhere. And Medina, if they're not involved, it stops. The commissioners are going to pursue it. It is needed. They've got the resources. And the question will come down to, can they afford it? And that's going to be the big question, I think, that has to be resolved by the end of this year, and certainly as we go into next year, to make sure that if this downturn, this COVID-19, if you will, recession impacts the funding coming from the state, that the county can weather that without significantly hurting the other functions of county government.
Mm-hmm. Now, you kind of talk on the lines of those collaboration and trying to help out. How important do you feel it is, the collaboration, one, I guess, between the county and townships and cities, and then expand upon that, the cooperation with your constituents, the county residents?
Well, certainly, for a county commissioner, their constituents, they have the individual constituents, but also the township. As I said, there's that special role between townships. Likewise, there's also a role, a relationship between commissioners and the cities, municipalities. They have much more flexibility in what they can do, and so there's the opportunity for greater partnerships. And as commissioner, when I was commissioner, we had a number of those relationships, those partnerships, and I see in the future continue to work on those joint relationships. And we have entities that have been created that involve continuing to work in those partnerships. But all in all, the underlying, if you will, importance is that it has to be a public benefit. But likewise, if it's a public benefit, you have to involve the public. So these things have to be much more open. They have to be open and transparent and working and understanding the constituents' concerns. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, public participation has been somewhat hampered by the ability to go into public meetings and so forth. That is going to be, that's transitory. Of course, now with Zoom and Facebook and all these other things, we have a greater opportunity to watch that. But this is not going to be the normal. Next year, I can see as, if you will, the relaxation occurs, we're going to have those combined. We ought to be able to have those kind of public forums where people are not only involved face-to-face, as traditionally they've been able to, but also online on Zoom and Facebook and through messaging. So I think it's been a great opportunity for us to kind of work out the technology and local governments to work the technology, but it's also important that the county continue to be supportive of encouraging public involvement in the decision-making that goes on, where we've never been able to do that before.
Now, in terms of, you talked about this COVID-19 and this recession that could take place. How important is it for the county commissioners with their relationship with businesses moving forward in this next term?
Well, many times, the county commissioners historically had been a large involvement with the Medina County Economic Development Corporation. And that because many of the functions that the county was required to do for businesses, tax abatement programs, tax incentive financing, all those kind of things, had to involve that entity who was doing it, or you created your own department. They are, in effect, the department of a department of the county. They're essential board members. They provide, I think, their largest funding source for them. So that partnership itself and the number of projects that they've adopted through the Port Authority and Economic Development Corporation, such as the Technology Park and the Fiber Optic Network, all those are partnerships that the county was able to achieve working with the businesses. And I think that's going to continue on. It's so important that that dialogue continues on. Certainly as our economy has transitioned and changed, as I mentioned, a lot of the small businesses have been hurt. So but you have a lot of growth of those middle and larger businesses. And so the county's going to have to be receptive to making sure that the small businesses are not forgotten. And in that venue, the Economic Development Corporation, of course, then working also with the local chambers of commerce, that's kind of the best way to organize and work with them and identify and help assist them in their various problems. It's not just going to be about cash. It's really going to be about, many of you recall, it wasn't just that long ago, last year, it was about labor. It was being able to find the individuals in the training. So we'll be not only working with the businesses in making sure that we've got children that are graduating and have the skills, but also working with our school systems. So there's that sense of very comprehensive, basically, collaboration that I think Medina County is known for, and historically we've had.
So with that, it takes a certain person to run for an elected office, and we applaud everyone that does, but what skill set, leadership role, expertise do you feel that is more of an advantage for you, or maybe a little bit better than your opponents?
Well, I don't know about, I'm not going to judge anybody else. I'm just going to say is I've been very successful and blessed with the opportunities that people have granted me. I think first and foremost, I've tried to pride myself in being thoughtful, trying not to be rash in decision making, but also listen. There's a Pennsylvania Dutch saying, 2 ears, 1 mouth, you listen twice as much as you talk. And that in this forum, it's kind of more difficult because I'm supposed to present myself. But normally, I try to listen and then try to respond. And I think that's one of the important gifts or one of the attributes that you have. But also trying to be thoughtful and in responding that you're considering everybody's viewpoint, and you're really going to go down and do the extra mile of research and data. And given it being the academic that I am, an historian, and taking a look, I was a quantitative historian. I take a look at the data, try to do an analysis, trying to be very thoughtful, and make those decisions based not only the input I'm getting from residents and those stakeholders closest to it, but understanding the larger problem, the larger issues, and also seeing if there might be alternatives or ways that we can do it that really meets the goals and the desires of our community, but in the long term addresses those issues and makes, I think, a better opportunity for the future to be able to handle these issues. There's a number of areas where I think we've been able to accomplish. When I was county commissioner, the number of road projects, but also we had the sales tax for schools. That if we had not had that sales tax for schools at 0.5% over a decade ago, in 2007 when it passed, and we were the only county that's in the state that still has that, where we have the revenue coming into the states for their capital improvements. And I've heard time and time again how much that has benefited, and really the schools have survived and thrived because they've had that stable funding source and been able to do so much. And that's a testament to the county, that's a testament to our voters, and I think it shows where our investment desires are. It's in our families, it's in our children. And that's indeed what I think I bring to it, is that perspective, is looking long term. What the proper goal is public interest. It's that public investment for public purposes for our future. And that's where I'll always be, is try to side with that and make the best decisions I can based on the information I have.
Great. Well, thank you. We're speaking with Steve Hambley, the candidate for Medina County Commissioner. And Steve, I want to give you one last opportunity that you can talk directly to the voters. So I'll turn the microphone over to you and let you have a moment.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, as I said, I've been blessed many times to have been elected, not only as a county commissioner and I was a councilman in the city of Brunswick, but also state representative. It's been an honor to serve Medina County. This is the love of my life, of being of the county. As a historian of Medina County, I've come to appreciate the benefit, really the character of our community, our love of families, our faith, our love of pursuit, and that we weather even the most dire circumstances and conditions. That when we have the kind of problems we have now, we know that we make do. We're able to accomplish so much. That I see that time and time again, that's the character of Medina County. And I'm just asking you to trust me once again to continue to provide the service to Medina County as County Commissioner.
Thank you, Steve. Again, that's Steve Hambley, the candidate for Medina County Commissioner. And I usually always love to give a handshake and wish you the best November, but I'll kind of just have to do a little air elbow there to you and wish you the best come this November.
Thank you.